lot of the influencers, just to clarify this for Robbie, because that's a great topic. We're starting to see, and this is my opinion. I don't want to put anything on anyone that's talking here. That some of the people that were talking in our community very loudly about hex, cuatro cinco, 555, la la la. Maybe the incentives were not there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm talking out of my rear, and anyone can correct me. But I'm starting to see that a lot of people maybe don't have hex at 5 or 10 years. Maybe they don't have even like a
Most.
couple $1,000 in hex, and then the incentives change
Yep.
because I'm seeing a lot of changes. That's all I'm saying. Like
Yep. If you had
like
enough t-shirts, you
maybe
don't
if
need
you
to launch a
guys have
coin.
seen it too.
Basically, you didn't need to launch a coin if you had t-shirts, right? Like your coin was coming to you every
Yeah,
day.
you're probably thinking a different way, and I mean, I launched something too, so like I admit. But my thinking is, I didn't want to like show this stuff to like the same hexagons. I was like, like build a fly trap and then like
Right.
try to bring in people from
Well,
outside.
technology is good.
But
It's not like you need
it
more
feels that a lot of people
personality.
were kind of like shilling to our own people, and then it's like, oh well, the prices are down, and it's like, well, yeah, we're kind of like recycling the same
Yeah, we
funds.
moved.
And I mean, I remember having that talk in the main chat in 2021. I mean, it was the only reason that I got that idea that the prices of Pauls could launch under SAC price. And I know that it was super controversial back then, but I was like, guys, I think that we need to have this conversation in case that we need to like change our approach to the
Yeah,
market
message. Yeah,
in a different. What was that, Robbie?
we
Sorry
have
about
to
that.
change the message, right? Because
Yeah,
I
exactly. So
noticed
that we can
a lot.
adapt. It's all about adapting. It wasn't about fudding. People were like, "Ah, I think it's fudding." I was like, "No, bro. It's just I like to know about plan A, B, C, and then if A doesn't work, cool. B, oh no, C, and then we still win." And I mean, some of us, that's what we were thinking. Like, all right, let's think maybe the price can do this because it'll be good. It'll be good. I'm not trying to say it's a bad
Yeah,
thing because imagine put yourself now, guys, in Ethereum at like 2015 or something like that, where nobody was like thinking, everyone was like
Yep.
flooding Vitalik and this and that it was
You
happening
want
and
less.
Vitalik was a scammer and blah blah blah. But I mean, whoever was chilling in those times, they're sitting pretty right
No,
now.
you want less people. Yeah, so that's the other way to win, Robian. First you have less, and then you get more. So that's what I'm like. What ID's saying, Plan B or whatever. In my opinion, is less is more. Richard Hart's chilling for a reason. He wants less people for a reason. Specifically,
hmm
we haven't capitulated enough people, and they will leave within a year or 2 years or three because they're not patient enough. But certain people like me have been in crypto a while. We're never going to stop. We don't sell all of our hexes after a year because we're freaking out over
Yeah.
price. Like we're literally going to be using Pulsechain for 20 years from now because guess what? You don't build a blockchain and then you make another one and another. No, that's too much
yeah,
effort. We don't need to do that kind of effort. And if we reduce our community 50%, get out, a lot of this drain, right? It's draining our value. And then I think the part of the plan 2 or 3 would be a lot of us need to figure out the power of the dollar or the stable coin and use that to our advantage to build the liquidity pools up to where Hex can't go down. Right? Like literally, you make a stable chart because you control the chart and you're providing the liquidity. And somebody like a Godwell earns 40 million hex in one stake in 1 month. You mean to tell me he couldn't sell a little bit of Hex, get some stablecoin, and protect the price in the future? Even at these prices, he got it for free. And all of us could do that. And then, before you know it, you're going to have a strong Hex chart of believers that are providing liquidity. And whether you think, oh, I want to eventually cash out, no, no, no. We're building like a patient way that everybody's strengthening the price of the hex chart by supporting it through liquidity for, and I'm talking about this for the future of your stake, and not just stakes, but it has to do with pulse chain too, right? You're imagine the biggest liquidity pairing is hex and die instead of pulse and die. You know what that would do? it would be very interesting, wouldn't it? Pulsechain would look a lot more
Yeah, that would have
stable
been
if
incredible.
all of a sudden you had $20 million sitting with Hex and DAI, and then you had 15 million with Pulse and DAI. It would be like, wait, what? What happened with Hex? Hex is like strong all of a sudden, and it wouldn't, so that volatility is scaring people. That's fine. We still don't have enough of these, like you're talking. They still have a little bit too much T shares, and we're seeing like clips of 5,000 T shares, 10,000 T shares, or when you end that stake, they disappear, you get half back. That's great. That means you earn less hex when you stake again. The system will work. It will keep correcting itself, like what ID says, self-correcting system. And to me, I'm not really trying hard to like get out there, and I want to see the people capitulate and give up personally. I'm personally accumulating hex every day, but I'm not really telling people hex, 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 because for me, I'm like, well, if they don't understand it, I want them to feel like everybody gave up and I want them to leave. I'm talking to people who are in our community, big accounts that are now shilling the coins that they created and giving up on
Yeah.
Hex, right? Those kind of people. I want them to capitulate out and their followers who don't believe. And so the community goes smaller, and then we can literally build up the liquidity as step two, and then we can promote as step three, right? And I think that takes a few years to do that type of a plan, but that's what
Mm.
I'm building it. Personally, that's what I'm doing. And which means I need more of the dollars or the stable coins, so then I can create this support,
Right.
and then you look at your stakes out and you say, well, I don't need to support the price right now. I need to support it in 2031. That's when I really need to support the hex price, not right now. So right now I would be accumulating and I wouldn't be supporting the price because that's okay. None of my stakes are coming out. So I really like the concept of hex doing well once most of the T shares are dead. And
Right.
once those who do survive past 2030, those people are the people that I think we should really, the T shareholders of 2031 and beyond, are the ones that can really make a stable chart, strengthening it up. And whether you like Hex or not, you, Pulsechain, Pulsex, Inc., they're all so connected to Hex that basically this is the weakness that people decided. They decided, oh, Hex is old, I'm going to dump that, I'm going to grab it. Really, it doesn't work that way. All of your assets are so tied into Hex that you better make Hex successful, or else you're going to see what? Pulsechain, Pulsex, they're going to get decimated too. That's what happened, right?
Yep.
Right. Mm.
I think that's exactly what I started noticing the change back in 2022, and that's what triggered me back then. And a lot of people were not understanding what I was trying to say, but it was like I was like, wait a second. All of a sudden, and again, I don't want to like put him in the spot or whatever, but I was like, let's say when Alex gave us like hedron or create a hedron, and then some people that were locked in already for 3 years, 2 years, they got this or whatever benefit, and then I remember like hearing all kinds of people flooding the thing, and I was like, what's going on? Like, what? Why would anyone flood something that we just got for doing nothing? Like literally, we did the same thing that we were doing before, and that's when I remember thinking, oh, it has to be because the people that are flooding the thing, they're not in the thing.
They don't have a
So
lot of
it's
T
like,
shares.
Yeah.
right. Or any because the point wasn't like they had teachers or not. There were some people that had millions and millions and millions of units, but then if the things were parked liquid, then you didn't get the benefit of being a staker at the moment of the airdrop. So those were my thinking. Like my thinkings weren't that like people, and that's why I used to always tell everyone. I was like, yeah, this person doesn't have hex, and then everyone's like, no, they have hex, and I was like, you don't get what I'm trying to say. I was like, you need like you weren't playing the game. You weren't like in the system. You weren't in the pool,
Mm-hmm.
and that was what I kept thinking. And um, anyways, nor here nor there. Now
Yeah.
it's just a
But
thought that for anyone that's trying to look bigger picture and why like a lot of people are all of a sudden, you know, doing this about the coin, doing that about this, and then forgot about talking about hex. And now we're
People
seeing,
talk to
the
their
changes, I
bags.
guess.
You talk to your bags. And there was quite a few people who sacrificed all their hex liquid, so they had only a tiny amount of t-shirts left because they were trying to play the 1 year game. They got into Pulse, so they're creating a Pulse coin because they have Pulse and they can tie their coin to Pulse, but they can't tie it to hex because they don't have any unless they swap again. You know,
It's true. Hmm. All
By
right,
the way,
then.
guys, I'm not trying to give shit to anyone that has or doesn't have. It's just I've been locked like a brokey now for the last about to be 4 years or whatever. It's been now 4 years something. And I get all kinds of complaints from people like, oh, well, ID said this. I did. I was like, do you prefer to have 20, 30, 50, 100x now, but you can't touch it for 2, 3, 5, 10 years, depending how you stash your ladder? Or do you want to be liquid right now with the expectation that at any point in time um, you can sell, whenever you get those gains. You get to decide. Do you want to sell at 5x, 3x, 10x?
and that's the benefit
Right.
of the blockchain is everybody has their own strategy. There's no thing saying you got to do a 15-year stake. You can do a 1 day stake.
And
It'll still generate you pulse. You know, if you take 100,000 hex, stake it for 1 day, and then you end stake it the next day, you're going to be looking at enough pulse to end your stake and then some, which means it's a pulse
right,
generator if you want it to be. You know, you could use it however you want.
right. And this is where I wanna. Well, I. It's not the stuff I'm trying to make for Hex is. It's gonna be. I'm working on it. It definitely isn't gonna be now. But now that you've told me what type of time zone I should be trying to hit the propaganda, whatever, or the marketing, right? I feel like I have plenty of ideas. I would prefer they would be my ideas, right? So that's why I'm not gonna say it, but I believe that yeah, like what you said,
Robian,
right? Everybody has their own what do you call it? Their
time
own
ladder
reason
stake.
to stake or purpose. Yeah.
Robian,
So
Robian.
I
So
feel like
if you're
oh
building
my bad.
something,
Yeah,
Robian, remember what I said about
yeah.
liquidity pools and Hex. Somebody could build something that encourages people to create a stablecoin Hex pair, and they could get an incentive for doing that. And you wouldn't have to do very much work, but that would support the Hex price,
But
and it would have an incentive
right.
for people to do that. And I'm not saying you should do that. I'm saying the farms
No, no,
the
no.
farms on PulseX have worked pretty well at supporting the pulse price because the pulse price could have gone
I
down a lot more, but people are earning ink. They don't want to sell their pulse because they have a pulse die pair and they're earning lots of ink. So they basically they're putting in die, which is buying pulse as it goes down, which helps the price not to go up or down too fast. And I think if we had something like that a little more geared to hex, and we do have it with the hex pulse pair. It kind of works, but it's still connected to pulse. It would be interesting if we had a massive one connected to a stable coin, but I'm not talking about now. I'm just talking about the concept of incentivizing our community to build a liquidity with a hex stablecoin pairing that backs up the price. That would be an interesting thing to think about.
right, but I'm more or less talking not about price, but about culture. You get me? It's more like a video, right?
Yeah.
So where maybe yeah, that the liquidity pool, right? I would have to work around it, right? Because the reason, right? Look, well, I wouldn't say I'm an artist, right? But I'm trying to make it in a way to dumb it down enough, right? Maybe not now, obviously, but dumb it down enough to where people are in a funny way or some type of cultural way, right? Like art, an animation, a video, to where they can understand it enough to want to do it. That's the whole purpose. I brought it up because if you need to put the idea into somebody's head, right? And I think I went over with somebody in a chat where how Richard, he became a financial jester, right? and people saw how he looked, right? A meme, essentially, right? How he looked and how how much luxurious items he bought, right? It kind of incentivized those very same people to put their wealth into that. I know it sounds stupid, but that was the meme he was trying to put out to the world. That was his marketing, right? So what I'm trying to do is trying to find a way to get that type of motivation from people, put the idea in their head to stake. I wouldn't say, to actually use the system of hex, right? In a way, like, how I think I brought it up to with ID. I'm working out, and I know my t-shirts are working for me, right? I'm not at work, but I know my t-shirts are at play. It could be anything that anybody else, right? My idea is working out. I get t-shirts. I know it's making money on the side. Anybody else could. It doesn't even have to be working out. It could be something else, right? Everybody has their own purpose. Everybody has their own things, right? That's why I want to make something that hits them, right? That relates to them. That's what I'm just trying to say. I don't know, like the financial part, I get that, right? But you need to put the idea into somebody's head, right? Before they can take the leap.
I would rather say you got to find the problem that people are trying to solve and then provide a product
Yeah.
that does that.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to establish a new pair, create the new pool. You make sure the rate is correct to the market rate. You don't just add some random arbitrary rate. You go look and see, okay, how much is it per pulse, and then set it at that rate, but slightly above. You add the liquidity above the trading rate which you're setting it at. Okay, it's very important to understand this, because then when you set the rate, what happens is bots will buy the new pool, immediately putting it into active range. But if the price is incorrect, a bot will arbitrage the two pools and balance the prices between the V2 and then your V3. So don't set it the wrong price. Make sure it's the right price, only going up. So then I can park my liquidity and say, okay, well, if I want to make a 10x, put it here going 10x the price for the rate. And as it goes 10x, I will receive pulse single-sided. And if it goes above that range, then I 100% in pulse. I made my, not a full 10x because it's laddering up. But you've seen it through. You might make a 5x or 7x or whatever it happens to be on paper, but you still have seen it through, right? Instead of having market sold some arbitrary point and not knowing if you did well or not, right? Meanwhile, while I'm parking this money here, I'm getting the 9mm airdrop credit for all this extra money that I've just bought with pennies, basically, right? Because if I put $2 in something, it goes to 100. And then I reinvest that 100 into 10 new projects, and then any one of those do well, you could see how this could quickly become very lucrative. So that's what I've been doing is I take the profit, I rotate the profit, and I put it into another undervalued PRC20 it seems decent. So these are my picks. I'll give you guys the alpha on this. You must pick a coin that is a big name ticker on Ethereum or a fork of a big name ticker. Like they had a lot of ERC20 copies like Phantom on Pulsechain, which is Phantom on Ethereum. It's bridged in, right? So it keeps parity with Phantom mainnet, but it's the Phantom ERC20 token that got forked over to Pulsechain, and that's why I made a 2x on. Okay, cool. Could it go up higher? Absolutely. I think I was at 3x at one point, but I didn't take profit. Now, I think that one's undervalued because Phantom is just going to be taking off soon on its own. People are going to be looking and saying, oh, I can buy Phantom on Pulsechain and buy this one because it's just cheap. They don't understand how it works. Other one I did really well on, like I said, was Near. I put $2 into Near just because I said, why not? Put $2. That one was worth $300 at one point. It's lost 90% of its value or something. I don't know. No, it's not lost 90% of its value. I'm sorry. My pool, I'm wrong. I'm absolutely completely incorrect. My pool is holding $30 in Pulse. It's not counting the other side. So let me look and see how much my Near token is worth because it did actually go back up into an active trading range. And I have 110 plus 30, so I have $140 from a $2 investment. So this is why I'm doing it this way instead of just selling. Okay, I put in $1.96, guys. I put in $1.96, and then of course I put it into the V3 LP instead of just saying, okay, cool, I made money. Well, I can't really sell because the liquidity is not very deep on the high end. I couldn't take $300 out. It wasn't $300 really to sell into. So even if I had started selling that, it would hurt the price. So I said, maybe it'll go higher. I don't want to have a BTT incident where it just goes like 100x on me and I miss it. So I went ahead and added liquidity moving up. So if you look at my liquidity range, let me see what I had here exactly. Got to go check my 9mm position. Hold on. Got too many pools. It's getting crazy. All right. So again, this thing has been collecting fees, which isn't a lot. It's really not much at all. But what it's also done is it's allowed me to increase the value. Instead of being like, okay, cool, I got $100. I'm going to sell $100 right now. Boom. I made my $75 after slippage or whatever. I put it in here going up, and now my $100 or whatever when I added LPs worth 140 on paper, but I'm sitting on $33 in Pulse and $106 in Near token because it still hasn't gone up. And I said I want to see the price do a 20x. Okay, so I set it at whatever the trading rate was, just above whatever the trading rate was, like 20 something cents, and it went up a little bit, so it's now trading, in 25-cent range. But I said I wanted it to go up to $2 or something, right? So of course, as it's trading up, I should, in theory, be able to get about $1,000 out of this position, maybe 800 to $1,000 out of this position if it goes up 20x. Now that would be approximately a 400 or 500x return on my investment using this strategy. 400 or 500x, guys, x. Now this doesn't always work. This is why you have to think of it like a lottery ticket play. I don't just have all my money in one thing, and you couldn't do it anyway because there's just so little liquidity in some of these early plays. They don't blow up until more money comes in. You don't want to be the guy holding the entire bag. So what I did again was I put $2 when it was pretty low, when it was virtually oversold, and that $2 has a paper value of about $140. So it's not bad. It's already at a 70x. Now those people buying those lottery tickets, the Powerball or whatever it is, they're like $2 a piece, man. You ever do that?
I had a question as far as like
No way.
on Phantom. So Phantom's a mineable coin. So on the forked version, is it not mined anymore? Is that why it doesn't have any price to set discovery?
It is not mineable per se. It's proof of stake, right? So proof of stake mining, you'd have to have a validator, and then you have a certain number of Phantom, and then you create a validator node. Because this was the ERC20 token of that token, it was the bridged Phantom, right? It's not the true native coin or the native network. It doesn't matter because whatever was snapshotted at the Pulsechain fork was just the bridged in tokens, which don't have the same functionality as far as proof of stake and etc. It's just a token. It's literally just a DeFi token that was just trading to have another market on Ethereum, so it could have parity.
It's the same like WBTC.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
can't claim it. Yeah.
So whatever the supply was when the fork happened was just whatever the supply is. It's not something you can come in and like set up a mining node to get like WPTC, because WPTC was unwrapped into Bitcoin, which was held in the bridge. And if the bridge isn't holding any real Bitcoin because it's a fork of the bridge, you can see how that obviously disconnects. It severs the functionality of the wrapping of the Bitcoin or unwrapping of Bitcoin. It just wouldn't even matter at that point. So the wrapping or the bridging of the Phantom, there's no Phantom on the other end of that bridge. Even if you were to go to try to like, hey, I'm going to use the Phantom bridge to unwrap on the forked version, there's no money on the other side. It's like a cliff to nowhere, right? That's essentially the problem. So the liquidity is the only thing it's trading against. Basically, it was the longest way to say that Phantom on Pulsechain is just a meme coin. And that's why I bought it, because it's going to go up. And it has. It already did a 3x for me, right? I should have bought more, but it had enough. It has a lot of liquidity. It has like $14,000, $15,000 liquidity, guys, which is what drew me to it in the first place. Because I said, who provided $14,000 in Phantom on Pulsechain liquidity? That's kind of weird. And I found the whale wallet, found all these other tokens, and it got me down this rabbit hole of like, maybe I can just start buying these ERC20 forks. And it's made me a good amount of money. I've made, all in all, since I started buying these little things, I've made about $1,000 profit off of less than $100 investment. Now, I'm not like some genius or anything here, guys. I'm just using common sense. The PRC20 forks that are popular on Ethereum will also be popular on Pulsechain. So Lido, Staked ETH, popped off. STETH, popped off. BTT, BitTorrent, popped off. Near tokens, starting to. It's at 25 cents. But these are the types of ticker names you need to target, is big name DeFi projects or well-established projects with lots of holders. People are thinking of it because the brand's in their head, or meme coins. So most of the meme coins that are worth even looking at have already been logo verified and hard-coded into Pulsex, like a Shiba, Ape, those type of ones. But you know what hasn't? Floki. You know what Floki is? not flow key, but Floki.
Floki,
Yeah, Floki.
Floki Inu.
Yeah, Floki Inu, but Floki, the original, bro, the original Floki from Ethereum, right? That one is very undervalued on Pulsechain. So that's one that's actually doing well on Ethereum, because I'm going to tell you a little secret. All of the dog coins have their narrative, and they each kind of exist in their own niche, right? So Dogecoin was the first, like, it was a fork of Litecoin, which is the fork of Bitcoin, right? So Dogecoin is a true coin on its own network. Then it became like a thing, a meme, whatever. So it's its own network. Then Shiba exists on Ethereum. Bonk exists on Solana. See where I'm going with this? Floki was a slightly different, more like, I don't know what they were trying to do with that. It's create some sort of like Floki universe and all this other crap. But Floki is one of the ones that kind of got forgotten about. And what it was Elon Musk said he was going to name his dog Floki. So everyone was like, okay, Floki token, Floki Inu, or whatever. And that's where it came from. So it's just like Elon Musk's Shiba Inu, right? So then that's kind of its own niche, right? So that's why it exists in its own little realm. But it has a whole platform they're building out. They're really going hard. It has NFTs and merch and all sorts of crap. But it's a dog with a Viking helmet. It's a little tiny Viking Shiba. And because it's unique and no one knows about Floki Inu, Floki, on Pulsechain, I'm like, I'm going to buy a little bag of Floki and see what happens, bro. See if it does a 10x or 100x or whatever. It might. But that's one example. I'm not saying I went all in. That's one example of a bite-sized bag where I bought maybe $5, $10, and you provide liquidity. And you set the range going 10x or 20x, and that $10 might turn into 100. And boom, you do rinse and repeat. You take that 100 out, and you don't spend it. You go and reinvest into 10 more coins, and then that $100 could turn into 1,000. And then boom, you turn $10 into $1,000. Really gets you a foothold in this bull market. You could turn that 1,000 to tens of thousands, not using necessarily the same strategy, but like using other DeFi protocols and buying early into coins, getting a 10x or something. That's how you get free money, guys. It's not by sitting around putting your life savings into one coin. It's by making many, many, many asymmetrical bets that eventually pay off.